You are now tuned into the GB3 Show here on ATLTalks Radio. We have Pat Benson with us here. He is a senior writer for Fan Nation Kicks and journalist for Sports Illustrated. How you doing, Pat?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be on talking the Hawks again with you. Absolutely.
So, yeah, we're going to jump right into it, Pat. So, we're 14 games in. The team is, right at 500, 7-7. They are coming off of a win against the Brooklyn Nets, 147-145. So, Pat, we just wanted to get your thoughts on the team, thus far. I mean, they're playing average. They do have an elite offense. I think we can say that they have a top 10 offense, but this season they've been, in the top 5, top 6. So, but the defense has just been atrocious. And I mean, we can look at the game against Brooklyn where they had a 15-point lead and that game had to go into overtime. And even the game before then, they had a 20-point lead against the Pacers, but they were able to get stops and they, came back and won by 5. So what are your thoughts on the team thus far? Is this how you expected the team to play, or do you feel like, a lot of changes has to be made, in regards to maybe a trade or a rotation, wise?
Yeah. So I think Hawks fans are understandably kind of upset. In some ways, it kind of reminds us of that 21-22 team with Gallinari and Herter, where the offense was through the roof, but we just couldn't play any defense. And also, you look at the record, as you brought up, 7-7, just painfully mid at this point in time. And we all remember that statistic floating around last year, where it's like, over the past 100 games, the Hawks are 50-50, and, I get all that. But this team is better than those previous teams. If you pop the hood and you look at the advanced metrics, they are better. It's just right now it isn't equating to wins. I think Trey had a little bit of a slump, and it just isn't. It hasn't worked out in terms of wins yet. But this team is better, and I'm remaining optimistic.
Yes, sir. And this is Jerome Boateng coming from you from the GB3 Show, Pat. And one time I do remember hearing Mike Conley back when Quinn Snyder was on the Utah Jazz, and he stated that Quinn Snyder's system is like you got to learn how to have a PhD for it. And, we've also seen the Utah Jazz kind of come out the kind of slow-ish starts in the past with Quinn Snyder, and then around January, February kind of pick it up. So do you think that can definitely happen with the Hawks as well as we get into the later months of the season?
Yeah, as long as all the players are buying in, then yeah, that's most important. And right now, all of them are Trey, DeJounte, all the team's leaders, Clint, they're all buying into a system. So that's what's most important. I think about this time last year, we were already seeing cracks in the foundation between Trey and Nate McMillan. I think by this point in time, they were starting to have their public feuds. And we all remember, that one practice that resulted in Trey not showing up to the game that night. It seems like everybody's really buying into his system, which is important. And it does take time to get used to a new coach and new sets and, all that. So, yeah, I could see this team improving as the season goes on, just, getting some more time to gel and to figure out that new system.
Yeah, and speaking of Trey, a lot of people have mentioned a lot of people are talking about his efficiency and pointing just toward that as to why he's not playing that great. I'm willing to make the argument that other than his efficiency, he's been a lot more well-rounded. His passing is as good as ever. And even defensively, he's gotten a steal in every single game he's played this year. And he's averaging 1.7 steals. His defensive EPM is at 0.3. And it's been more neutral than most years. So what is your assessment of how Trey has played despite his low efficiency so far?
I couldn't have said it any better than you just did. I think, obviously his shot has been a little bit off, but his defense has been so much better, and his overall game is much better rounded than it was previously. So it seems like we keep moving the field goal posts on Trey. For years, we got onto him about his defense, and that was what opposing fan bases would always point to, but now he's improved that. So now we're going to, pick on other parts of his game. So I think he's playing much better. His shots will fall. His averages, his shooting percentages will eventually go towards the average, towards the mean. And but overall, he's absolutely better all around. And I expect for him his shooting to continue to pick up. We've seen him have a few outbursts this season, and he'll continue to have some hot nights.
And Pat, just to circle back on the Hawks defense, and I said this to many people, that this team, the way the roster is constructed, is not meant to stop anybody, but of course it can always be improved. And so far, as of right now, there have been rumors about, the Bulls. They're off to a bad start. I believe when they lost their first 3 games, they had a players meeting. So it's looking bad in Chicago. And of course, the rumors with Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, and Alex Caruso. I mean, it's feasible that the Bulls could be looking towards a fire sale. But I think that if the Hawks want to improve their defense, whether if they want to do that internally or if they want to do that in a transactional way, I think that getting a guy like Alex Caruso would be something that they could really use, in terms of their perimeter defense. So do you think that Alex Caruso would be a target that the Hawks could make by the trade deadline? And if so, what do you think the price tag would be for a guy like him?
Yeah, so I think Caruso is a much more realistic target than LaVine. I know we all love the flashy all-star caliber players, but I just think that price tag would be too much. I'm not sure what the package would entail for Caruso. I'm sure it'd have to probably include DeAndre Hunter, perhaps Sadiq Bey's expiring contract. I don't know. But, I think Caruso would be a more realistic target. I'm sure he's one of many names that Atlanta's front office is monitoring, from now through the first week of February. So, keep an eye on Chicago, as it looks like they could be heading for a teardown or a rebuild.
And when you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, I mean, yes, it's still early in the season. We're almost, the first quarter of the season. But when you're looking at these teams out in the West, Minnesota, they're the first seed. And then you look at the Magic, they're coming off a big win against the Celtics, and they're second in the East at 11-5. So how do you think that these guys are playing? Do you think that this is something where it's like, okay, we need to take these teams seriously? Or do you think that, well, it's early in the season, let's give it, a few more games to see where these teams are at? Because, they're off to a fantastic start so far.
It's painfully early in the season right now, so I'm not surprised that some of these young upstart teams, like the Thunder, like the Timberwolves, like the Magic, are jumping out to an early start. Let's give it several weeks. Let's give it a few months. And then I think you're going to see the more veteran-laden teams like out west, the Nuggets, the Suns, the Warriors, the Lakers. I think we'll start seeing them go back towards the top of the standings. And then the Eastern Conference, I'm confident that it'll be Celtics, Bucks, 76ers near the top. So I'm not surprised that the young teams are jumping out to a hot start. Let's see if they can maintain that. Right now, I remain pretty confident they will not.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to circle back real quick to the Atlanta Hawks. Right now, especially over these last 2 games, the defense has been a major point of emphasis. And one thing that I've noticed is that we're 25th in defensive rebounds so far. We're giving up a lot of second chance points to these teams. And granted, we've played teams like the Knicks, the Orlando Magic, the Pelicans, the Milwaukee Bucks, teams that really focus a lot on their offensive rebounding. But so far, when you point at why the defense has been so up and down and bad, it's really that defensive rebounding stat. They've been really low with that. And, I look at how Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu, they have to play more at the perimeter. So really, I think it's more so on the forwards to get the rebounds. Like DeAndre Hunter and Sadiq Bey just have to do a little bit more. So in your eyes, what can the Hawks do to get that defensive rebounding number up? Because I think that will definitely improve the defense a lot more than it has.
Yeah, so defensive rebounding, second chance points in the paint, that can definitely kill you. And there are a bunch of different variables, like perhaps, like you said, our post players are out around the perimeter. Maybe some of our guards are, getting back, and that could lead to why we have the 3rd highest pace of play in the league and 2nd in points per game. So there are a lot of different variables. I agree. Forwards could do a better job rebounding. DeAndre Hunter has never rebounded at a high rate. So I take say there are a lot of different variables that could cause that, but obviously you can't get killed on the boards and expect to, keep your opponent's points per game at a reasonable amount. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but that's definitely a point of concern.
Yeah, man. And earlier you were talking about young teams getting off to a good start like the OKC Thunder, and one player in particular that has really gotten off to a great start, that's Chet Holmgren, and he's been outpacing Victor Wembanyama for Rookie of the Year so far, with 17 points a night and with splits of 55 from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line, and he's averaging 2.3 blocks too. So all around, Chet Holmgren's playing really well. It's super early in the year, but is this something that he can keep up and potentially steal that Rookie of the Year award that a lot of people just had penciled in for Victor Wembanyama?
Yeah, I think Chet is the real deal. He's definitely capable of doing it. And, I think I bought into the hype big time on Wembanyama, which is still real because I'll ask my friends who are more serious journalists than I am around the league, and they tell me to chill. They're like, Wembanyama will improve. He is doing all the right things. He's serious about his work ethic. You just got to give him more time. So I don't know if I'm ready to give Holmgren, my vote of confidence that he will win Rookie of the Year. I could see Wembanyama coming along. But yeah, Holmgren's a very solid player, and I think we're going to have a really solid Western Conference rivalry between Holmgren and Wembanyama for years to come. So that's exciting. And, we'll see what happens with Rookie of the Year. I remain bullish. I still think it could be Wembanyama, despite Holmgren really playing out of his mind.
And Pat, one last question before we let you go. So the Hawks, they have officially been eliminated from the in-season tournament. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the in-season tournament itself, because it seems like teams all around the league, they do like it. It brings them a more competitive spirit around the league. And of course, for the fans, they do want to see those kind of things. And even though the Hawks, they didn't, really win the games that they should have won, but overall, just in the in-season tournament, what do you think of it, and do you think this is something that the league should continue?
Yeah, I don't care that the Hawks got eliminated. I care about the playoffs. I care about the Larry O'Brien trophy.
Absolutely.
They can keep the in-season tournament championships. Obviously, it's good for the league. It's brought a level of excitement and enthusiasm. The players have bought into it, which is most importantly, because if they treated it like the All-Star game or the regular season tournament, we'd have problems. So obviously it's sticking around, and I'm sure whichever team wins it, they're going to really take a victory lap. But personally, if you want my personal opinion, I don't care.
Yes, sir. And Pat, one more question for me as well. And earlier this season, actually about 4 games into the year, we saw the Clippers make that big trade for James Harden. So far, they're 6-8, 11th in the Western Conference. And, of course, they got off to that, infamous winless start with James Harden. And just how do you think so far things are transpiring with the LA Clippers? And what do you think their outlook is for this season with James Harden on their team now?
They're doomed to fail. They've got the Avengers. They've got the Avengers of unlikable misfit characters who can't win in the postseason. So I think they've really built an incredible roster of players who are not going to succeed in the playoffs. We got Pandemic P, James Harden, Westbrook. I like Kawhi, but the rest of them, that's not going to work out, and it's doomed to fail.
Well, Pat, I really like Kawhi Leonard too. Guys on this show, they tease me a lot for my pipe dream of having Kawhi Leonard on the Atlanta Hawks. Any chance that we could see a fire sale from the Clippers? And what do you think of the prospects of Kawhi Leonard potentially being in Atlanta?
I would love it. I can't really imagine it happening because, our front office and our ownership, they seem to be immune. They seem to be allergic to going into the luxury tax. So adding a big star, an all-star caliber player would, just blow it wide open. So I can't imagine that happening. I would love it, though. I love Kawhi. He's the only redeeming character on the LA Clippers for me personally. But you know what? Keep that dream alive, and we're going to try to speak it into existence.
Absolutely, Pat, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for being on the GB3 Show, man.
Absolutely. We really appreciate you, Pat.
Thank y'all for having me. Keep doing your thing. I really love your show.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You take care.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Garrett, you heard what my man Pat said, right?
Yeah, okay.
He loved that Kawhi Leonard idea. I love it too, Mr. Benson. I love it too, man.
Yeah, but, like I said, if Kawhi Leonard were ever to stay healthy, then, like I said, I'll be all for it. So